We have a quorum in attendance, as we have Todd Livedall, Bob Hatch, Jeff Friend, Rick Jones, Susan Worth, and Matt Kresge in attendance. We have a guest also joining us, David Marsh. So I'll call the meeting to order. And in the process of doing that, my speech is pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open space meeting law and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Hubbardston Open Space Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or partners with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town website. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via Zoom. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website, a comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. And actually, there might be a slightly new one of that. That's the one I had. Since hybrid meetings are allowed, but they're a little bit awkward because you got to get the wherever you meet. So calling the meeting to order, we'll start with the minutes that Rick recently sent out. So is there any comments on the minutes of the meeting, of the last meeting?
Yeah, there, just in case that anybody noticed, there was an extra page in there that wasn't supposed to be there. So I'll be removing that. It was left over from our last meetings, minutes from the last meeting, but it didn't affect anything. It was left over from our April meeting. And I didn't realize that there was a third page there, so it got tagged on. Anyway, so the rest of the minutes are fine. I'll just eliminate that third page.
Any other comments on the minutes that get sent around?
Looked fine to me. Looks good to me.
Okay. All right, this sounds good.
I move that we accept the minutes as written.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Todd. Do I hear any objections to accepting that? Hearing none, I will consider the minutes of the previous meeting accepted with that one correction that Rick noted. Treasurer's report.
I got Tim's name spelled right, Mark.
I noticed.
Treasurer's report, Miss Susan.
Okay, in our rider account, it's the same amount, $4,191.32. The open space expense donations account, it's $248.34. And in the Hubbardston preservation, there was a credit of $36.02. I'm assuming that's interest. And the total is $13,240.90.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. That's excellent. Old business, update on the Fieldstone property. Specifically, I guess the highlight, Rick, I'll let you talk to that because you're tuned into that as much as I am. So highlights on the Fieldstone acquisition process.
Sure. Well, this past Saturday, we met Dave Marsh on a walk over there with about, 25 people or so. It was a great day for a walk, and we walked the whole field. What's that?
Good turnout.
Yeah, it was.
Of course, half of it was us. No, not half, but some. And the ticks loved it too.
Anyway, so we walked the whole field up there, and it was great. The current status of things is that we have been Susan has been out and about all over town, dressed as a tree, with the truck with the open space sign and some dogs and a sign promoting the vote on June 1st for the open space. And folks on the steering committee have been trying to gather support among people that are like-minded as far as wanting open space in town. And we're basically at a point where we're waiting to see what the vote turns out on June 1st. Cynthia Henshaw did send around the initial draft from the DCR for the conservation restriction on the East Quabbin Land Trust portion, which Dave, that was a portion we hiked the other day.
Yep.
And asked for comments from us, and some of us provided some. I sent them along to Mark as well, since I've never actually been involved in negotiating a CR before, and Mark has plenty of experience there, but he felt it looked pretty good. He had a couple suggestions, a kiosk sign, enlarging that. Todd, I'll get those to you as well. But otherwise, it was pretty much boilerplate DCR conservation restriction, wouldn't you say, Mark?
Yeah, for the most part. They've got some, always coming up with new language. There were a couple new twists.
Oh, you mean
there, but
the dead bodies? The dead bodies, you mean?
Yeah, that was one I haven't seen before.
There was a clause in the CR about what to do if there was human remains were found on the property. So that must have happened somewhere for them to add that language, I guess. Maybe an old Indian burial ground. CS apparently sent that to Sean Preventure and with some questions, and got a response from him today. And I haven't really had a chance to go through it too much. I think one of the main things that caught my eye and Bob's, I'm sure, was the caution against being able to do any kind of agriculture on the land. That's still an open question, but it sounds like from Sean's response to that he'd have to go back to the land committee or some other part of the organization, because he never mentioned that to them before, and that would take some time. And apparently DCR is moving away from allowing any kind of agriculture on properties they hold conservation restrictions on. So that's where it is now. We're hoping to get enough people at the town meeting on June 1st to pass the warrant article number 17 for the $75,000 in CPA funds.
Okay, I got a couple comments that I think would be great to get a response from Mark about the agricultural aspects of things. The reason that sort of became a notable item, I had calls from people relative to the property, particularly the owner of Calico and Cream. What's his name, Rick?
Don in the lane.
Yeah, Don McKay. And I had a good conversation with him. At first, he was quite negative about it, but then he's interested in the world. My focus was climate type issues, and he bought into that, preservation of forests, etc. And Rick had a clarification on that. I guess his background, he helped with missionaries and things like that in probably Central American countries things like that, where food was a major issue. So he was really interested in food and agriculture. And so I brought that up at a steering committee meeting. And it was, Cynthia thought that we would be able to get support to allow agriculture there. But Sean's response to agriculture was pretty clear, and I guess a little bit surprising. Do you have Sean's response was that in recent CRs, and I don't know what the definition of recent is, but in recent CRs, the DCR has definitely frowned against any kind of agriculture on their properties. You got any insight in that, Mike?
No, not really. That was new to me as well. Certainly in the past, they've taken out plenty of CRs on agricultural properties. But in general, for whatever reason in the schedule of this thing, right now you're looking at a time crunch.
Yep.
There's not a lot of time for back and forth on discussions like this.
And if we were going to give up on something, I guess I would do that. It would certainly be a good PR thing at town meeting to note that. But if it's a big deal with Sean, it's not worth fighting if it risks getting the CR through this year. So, but we'll pursue that with the conservation. I mean, with the steering committee. The second thing was trail aspects, and I know CRs are unique, and Mark has probably dealt with them a lot. So the first thing that happens in a CR, which I think is just Article 2, says you can't do anything. And then Article 3 comes along and says, yeah, well, you can do some things. They contradict the things that you can't do. And so Article 3 overrides, I guess the way you read it is, if there are things in Article 3 that override what's in Article 2 that says you can't do it, then Article 3 rules. Is that the way it goes?
Yeah, that's accurate.
It's an interesting.
Article 3 actually starts out saying, despite what was all said above, we still reserve the right to do the following.
Yeah, despite the fact that Article 2 says you can't do anything, you really can do something, and here's what you can do. All right. What was interesting there, and I know when we were Steph and I went over and worked with Cynthia, trying to improve some of the trails on Henry Grove side, and so in the process of doing that, there were some trails, and we brought the small tractor over to help do that, which is got a footprint of 5 foot wide approximately. And I know they're also going to plant grass over there, which if they're going to plant grass, you might want to occasionally run a brush hog through the trails that they're going to plant grass on. And I know we're talking about the other side of the street, but the wording in there was that you cannot enlarge a trail. So if there was a 30-inch footpath, do I read that says you can't widen that?
Yeah, if they want to be sticklers.
At any rate, so maybe Sean would give on that. I mean, because it was interesting because there was wording in there that you could create a new trail. So it really didn't make too much sense that you could create a completely new trail, but you couldn't widen a 3 foot wide trail out a foot on either side. So are we on any kind of reasonable ground to request a clarification on that? And in conjunction with that, isn't there usually some sort of trail width definition?
Not necessarily.
No?
So maintenance.
It's under that maintenance paragraph.
Yeah, but not enlargement of the existing unpaved footpaths.
Yes.
I think, I would say that provided that you weren't widening to the point of removing trees,
Yeah,
there probably wouldn't be any problem with that.
okay. Yeah, because if they're willing and also relative to creating a new trail, shouldn't there be some sort of definition about, I know in some of the federal guidelines, there are things relative to width and height. There's quite a bit of definition about what you can do with a trail. Shouldn't that be appropriate somewhere? Or is this typical wording?
Uh, With respect to the ultimate configuration of a trail, less detail is your friend.
Okay,
Tracy.
okay, yeah, I would agree with that. All right,
As a general comment, I mean, everybody understands that we are not a party to this CR, right? This is strictly between East Quabbin and DCR. Cynthia has asked for our input, and we're happy to
East
give,
Quabbin and DC.
and we're happy to give that input. But when you come down to it, this is a deal between East Quabbin and DCR.
Yep. Okay,
If they execute the CR for the $200,000 purchase price with DCR, it's a done deal.
yep,
Whatever happens with CPA funding, with other fundraising activities is totally irrelevant.
yep, yep.
I mean, it's not irrelevant to East Quabbin because they're hoping to receive those funds to defray their costs.
All right.
And just as an aside, Mark, we asked at one point whether town of Hubbardston, because we've been asked this question from people that we've been asking for support. We asked her whether or not town of Hubbardston through us would have any input into the CR, and she said yes, of course. So that's where she's asking us for any
Yeah,
input.
and she has clearly asked for that input.
And I guess my last comment relative to the CR, and then we'll move past that. There was a paragraph in there, and maybe it's a standard paragraph, and maybe that's the way it's always worded, about the potential for amendment to the CR. And the words seem like it's possible to amendment, but everything that I have heard in the past says it takes an act of Congress to change the CR. There was near the end of the document that implied you could amend the CR under unusual circumstances.
Yeah, exceptional circumstances. Yeah.
Is that standard wording?
Yeah, that's strictly boilerplate. You're not going to change that.
Okay. No, I didn't intend to change it, but the sounds of it sounded like if parties agreed, you could change it. No?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, it's got to go through the.
It didn't seem to be as much of it didn't imply as much of an onerous process that I had been led to believe.
No, I mean, there's no. I mean, it's not like an Article 97. Well, actually, let me think. No, Article 97 doesn't apply to this. Yeah, I mean, there's no cast in stone hurdle, but
let's
Still
get to
be,
this here.
it would still have to be something exceptional.
Okay. But if it were exceptional, then there seems to be a viable bet. But that's the standard boilerplate wording?
As of late, yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm done on any comments on the CR. Are we done with the CR?
Kind of, but one more aspect. You had to leave after the walk the other day, Bob, but we got together with Katie Young and her daughter Destiny. She was looking, Destiny was had an idea for a project for one of the conservation areas in town, and she wanted to get some feedback us before coming to us formally and presenting it. And what it is, I would call it installation art, is what Katie called it. Destiny has an idea for I don't know how to describe it, a
Fairy land with mushrooms and a house and some moss on a big rock sort of thing.
So
Monhegan Island style.
what's that?
Monhegan Island style.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Fairy house for us.
She actually had come up with a drawing that she showed us, and she asked for our initial feedback before she started to get into it too deep. And my first thought was, you know, with DCR holding the conservation restriction on two of the properties, you know, the East Quabbin one as well as Mount Jeff, that they might take a dim view of it. But I didn't know. I told her that I would ask about it. And then Cynthia got involved in the conversation, and she thought it might be a possibility and she used, she had a question. She had a question when she went back to Sean Provencher about something like that, whether it be allowed or not. And Sean, you know, asked for more details. So at some point, Destiny would like to come to the Open Space Committee and present her idea. I guess at our next meeting at the end of June, and get our input on it and approval to, you know, to do something. So
This is for a Girl Scout, whatever's above silver, which I guess is gold. I don't know.
Well, I have a quick question. So you're saying she wants to put art? Is that it? She wants to put a piece of art on land?
no, it's she wants to put a fairyland there. She's a little, I don't know what, I don't know how to describe it.
Like one particular fairy house, or she wants to build them all along a path?
No.
Oh, no, just-
one setting. And you know what place came to mind to both of us independently immediately when we walked Jassie's Meadow? Those rocks. They
Yeah,
look like set up for a tea table for fairies. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, so it's just an idea, and hopefully she can come in June. But initially, is there anything that would absolutely say, no, this is not an option? Or
I mean, Sean didn't rain on that parade in his response.
so you feel like he would be open from?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a conversation you could
And
have.
it's not a permanent installation. It will be semi-permanent in a way, but everything would be safety. You know, you don't want something falling and hurting someone or something like that. And
No, I mean,
probably-
these things are usually about 6 or 8 inches tall.
oh, well, no, she wants to make the scale a little bit larger,
Oh,
but it was still all in one place. And down in Jassie's Meadows, there are all those horizontal rocks placed on other rocks. Do you remember that characteristic of that meadow?
Yeah.
Remember, guys, when we walked that morning?
yeah, but are you asking, is she gonna ask the question of putting it in anywhere on the land in Hubbardston, or is she specifically talking about having something put in the CR for
Fieldstone.
Lombard?
No, there wouldn't be specific wording in the CR regarding that. She was asking about would something like this be allowed in any of the conservation areas?
Yeah.
And at the time, we were talking about Mount Jeff and Malone.
And then
Yeah.
And then Cynthia said, well, if you can't do it there, you can always do it over here. So that's just what she said. And she was serious. So,
Yeah, no, I mean, if worst comes to worst, Malone's the best bet, because I don't think Jassy would have a problem.
oh, right, North County, right.
And I've seen similar things like that in different land trusts in Maine and New Hampshire, that they're allowing people to come in and put some pretty big artistic structures on their land. So
Oh, it's not, I mean, the house, I think, was like 2 feet maybe at
no, I know.
max.
My comment was just in reference that it's happening other places in a much bigger scale. So I would think that on a small scale, it should be allowed.
Yeah. And a time frame. In other words, this would be up for maybe 2 years, and then everybody agrees that's long enough, and it would probably start to fall apart, and then it would be removed, something like that. Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah.
Or any other restrictions?
A prairie renewal project.
Anyway, so my question, I guess, at this point then is, we don't really see necessarily any obstacles at this point, so we should invite her to our next open space meeting to present her idea.
Yeah, I vote yes.
Yes, and I just make this one clarification. If Sean requires more detail, given the time frame that we're talking about on the current CR, the likelihood of clarifying that for the CR on Fieldstone is pretty slim, I think. For other properties where Malone and particularly Malone seems like a reasonable location where they could go through. Mount Jeff, you got to get back into dealing with DCR a little bit.
Right.
But relative to affecting the CR that is associated with Fieldstone, a meeting, having her come to the next meeting is not going to do any good relative to the Fieldstone thing.
Now, there's not any language that's going to get put into the CR regarding this anyway.
Yeah.
The interpretive educational type
Right.
Provision is pretty broad, and that's basically what Sean said in his response.
Okay.
Yeah. But I will tell you that Destiny actually has this all planned out, dimensions, size, the whole thing. So
she's done some good preliminary planning, but before she went whole hog, she wanted to check with us to make sure it would be something that would be feasible.
Okay.
So she'll be on for the 29th then in June. Yes, that makes sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be it. That sounds great.
Okey doke.
Okay. Let's see. Some of the I'm deviating from what I used to have as old business, because some of these things under new business are kind of things we've already talked about before. The aspect of Jassy's Meadow, and Mark, I'm gonna apologize. You gave me a name at the last time that I needed to talk to on Jassy's Meadow.
Danielle,
Yeah, it was in the,
Yeah, I was trying to remember if I ever sent you her contact information.
I didn't. I went looking for it and I didn't see it.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I may not have.
So go ahead and send me that send me that contact info. Was it Danielle?
yeah, it's in Rick's notes.
Okay, so send me that contact info and then I'll get in touch with her.
Yeah. If you're not in a particular hurry on it, I'll probably establish contact with her in July to start talking about the hay management plan update.
Okay. Yeah, no, that'd be great.
I could fold that all into the same conversation.
Yep, that'd be perfect. We have enough things in the short term to talk about that. I'll cover two topics sort of at the same time. the stone culvert and the bridge over the Canesto. Had a great conversation finally with Tim Culkeen. I described to him both of those situations and approximately, verbally, approximately what we were gonna had in mind to do on those. One is to make the bridge safe, and then to put in a double wall HDPE culvert where the stone culvert is caving in. And he was all in favor of it. He said, I don't even think I need to walk it with you. And I believe I sent around to everyone, you can correct me if anybody didn't get it, the letter that the Word document that I generated that described both of those projects. So the bridge project, I have continued to pursue the fiberglass reinforced plastic solution to that. I have got some good had a good conversation with somebody from a company called Bedford FRP, fiberglass reinforced plastics, very, very big, good sized company down in Durr, Bedford, Pennsylvania. And one is, did people get that document?
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah,
we
okay.
did.
Were there any questions from you folks relative to what I supplied to Tim?
Not for me.
And so the fiberglass reinforced plastic thing, and I reviewed it technically with the folks from Bedford, and the product, and I sent everybody around today, I believe, their catalog, which has got tons and tons of products in it. And the one that seems most appropriate for us is their grading. They have two general categories of products, graded and pultruded. The graded products seem more appropriate for the kind of things that we're talking about. And the one I selected for the project over the Canesto is what in their vernacular would be a 2-inch by 2-inch by 2-inch, meaning you get a 2-inch square structure opening, and it's 2 inches high. That's the grid pattern, and it has got some significant strength characteristics. I believe off the top of my head, it's around 4,000 pounds a square foot, which would support just about anything that you want to put across there. The cost on it was better than what I had anticipated. It turns out it's around approximately $11 a square foot, and that's a 8 by 16 bridge, which is about a roughly what's that, 128 square feet. So it'll be in somewhere in the $1,200 category, and then you're going to add some fasteners to it and a few other things. So the whole project, the whole cost for the bridge project would come out somewhere in the $1,400 to $1,500 range. The culvert project is much simpler, if you would, other than there's more labor involved. You got to get those stones out. And I asked him if we could get the key to be able to get the tractor that we have used for other projects. And if we get that down there, it would be pretty easy to take out the existing stones and probably put in about a 12-foot long, 10-inch diameter culvert in there. Back to the bridge project, my envisionment, which I described in there, they have some of the panel sizes that these FRP products come in are 4 foot by 12 foot. We would cut those in half to end up with 4 foot by 6 foot, lay those transverse across the existing telephone pole support structure underneath the bridge, which are in sound condition. There's nothing wrong with those. And it would take 4 of them. There are fasteners that are identified in that catalog, which would make it so that those didn't move. And what I described both to the, I think his name was Ted Lindsay from Bedford, as well as what I proposed in the thing to Tim Culkeen, was to put a fabric down first, like we have done on the bridge over at Link. Put the fiberglass reinforced plastic down over the top of that. Fasten those to the telephone structure underneath, and then fill the voids in the 2x2 grid with Fieldstone. So it would look like a natural extension of the trail. You wouldn't have to rip out everything that's there. And it's a project that you could complete probably in 4 hours.
You're just laying these on top of the existing decking, right, Bob?
Say that again, Mark?
You're just laying these on top of the existing decking?
Yes. Yep. I would lay so the sequence would be to put this, it's another high density polyethylene product, but it's in the form of what looks like a carpet, a big black carpet, which is what we put on the bridge. And it's a very strong but porous material. That would, and the main function of that is the dog barking. The main function of that is you lay that down. There are some significant holes in that structure right now. I don't know if anybody's been down there, but there are some holes in there that are 12, 14, 16 inches across. So the purpose of the stone, you could put, spit it out, Bob. You could put the fiberglass reinforced product down just as is. It may not be something that a horse found friendly, and we want to make the crossing user friendly even to a horse, I guess. Adding the fabric and the stone to fill that would add $50 to the cost. So the cost is trivial. The labor is trivial to put that down. Just like when we did those bridge crossings, you can do those in a couple hours at most. And so that didn't add much to the cost. You'd still have something that drained extremely well, would never be slippery, and still retain the structural strength characteristics of the fiberglass reinforced plastics. So that was the reason I picked that solution. So anybody, and aesthetically too, just people walking it, it would look like much more like an extension of the trail versus an unusual characteristic of the trail.
Yeah, Bob.
All right. And so relative to getting back to the project and cost and stuff like that, I have written commitment from both Bay State Trail Riders. They will pay half the cost of the project. Cross State, who is having a major event there on the last weekend in June, so whatever that is, 27, 28, 29, 30, somewhere in that category. They have willing to contribute $1,000. So there'll be no outlay required on our part to complete either of those projects. Given the cost that the quote that I just have, and I do have quotes from Bedford, given the quotes that I have recently received, where I indicated earlier that some of these things are fiberglass reinforced products come up in the category of $14, $15, $16 a square foot. The cost was down around $11 a square foot. So it's below what the estimate that I identified to Bay State and Cross State. So,
They maintain this stuff in stock.
yep, and as a matter of fact, I may pick it up. Yes, they do have these. From talking to the person at Bedford, they do have these available. We're going down there. There's a coincidental peripheral note. We use a particular type of feed nutrient product for our horses that we get from a Quaker mill in Lebanon, PA. It's a couple hours from Bedford, but to expedite the timing, et cetera, shipping large items like that can add a substantial amount to the cost. So and I want to meet this guy. They do the significant bridge products. If just maybe Mark would be interested in this. Some of the other people may not be, but so I'll blab a little bit further. I'm involved. I'm involved with folks from Mark met them on the Concord project. So I have a quote from them for a segmented structure that would span that 300-foot marsh over in Concord. So, and they get into significant, and what you would get from them would be a complete package that would be assembled on site that included all the girders, decking, handrails, et cetera, et cetera.
It's the pilings that are going to be tricky.
What's that, Mark?
And it's the pilings that are going to be tricky.
The helical piles. Yeah, we Steph and I went over and visited one not too far from there in Carlisle, and there's a helical pile company that actually they used hand machines, but they went out. They essentially did that exact thing, except they didn't cross the entire marsh, but they went out 100 feet into it, and I think it was Benville or something like that in Carlisle, and and I'll digress for 2 more seconds and then get off my high horse here. They used pressure treated wood on that project. They put it up 11 years ago, and they're already replacing pressure treated planking. The lifespan of these fiberglass reinforced products is 80 to 100 years. So, all right. So that's the status of both of those. So those both look good. I sent that info to Tim, as you know, already. I have not heard back from him. If it was up to Tim, he would have said, go ahead and do it. He wanted that write-up that I provided so he could take it to his supervisor just to get the okay from him prior to telling us that it was okay. All right.
To Denise.
What was that?
He's taking it to Denise at Wachusett.
Denise is his boss. Is what
He didn't identify whom he was taking it to, but all right. Any other comments on that? So all that stuff looks great financially. The proposed solution, all that stuff looks really good. And my target is obviously to get that done prior to that cross-state ride. We're headed to Pennsylvania sometime in the next week or so to get that. The material is obviously very light, didn't add anything to our load coming back there. We take 3 ton of stuff back when we come, but the products that we're bringing back would add nothing to that. So the Gates Foundation, I had a couple action items on that, which I've contacted Graves. Graves will accept concrete rubble. It's $7 a yard as long as there's no steel in it. It's about $20 a yard if there's steel in it. They'll take that too, but they have to crush it and then process it with magnets, et cetera, to take all the steel out of it. And that would become our liability, if you would. Our cost. I don't think Travis or the DPW would absorb that cost, and I haven't taken a crack at the amount of tonnage out of there, but it's probably in the 10 to 15 ton range, I would guess. We could hit that fairly easily. There's quite a few chunks of 3 foot by 8 inch by 6 foot pieces of concrete that got to get out of there. And what I asked Travis is if we get it out, and I think we can do that with the machine we got, if we get it out, can he then load it into a dump truck and then take it to Graves? I assume that the town doesn't have any other place for disposal of that, but. So that's the status. That was, if it's $7 a ton, we're talking, you know, $400 maybe of what it might cost us to have that processed by Graves.
Yep.
So that's the status of that. And I'm just waiting to hear from Travis. You folks also got a document that was a copy of that I cut and pasted into a Word document of what I sent to Travis that included also some information relative to horse and ag signs up here. That was not an open space issue, but that was also in that document. So that's I'm done with my stuff. Anybody else got any other comments?
No.
What kind of tools and what kind of, how can the committee be helpful in this bridge project?
The
Um,
it would definitely be good. What I've asked for, here's my steps in the sequence. I asked Tim for the key because there'll be a couple yards of pea stone that we need to get down there. So a couple yards of pea stone is 6,000 pounds. So we can fit that into the back of the trailer that you've seen we've got. So I've asked for the key to the gate to be able to take that down there. That would be a lot easier. So the help would be just some hands like we've done. The bridge project will not be significantly different from what we did over on Link. Putting a fabric down, fastening the edges, putting the fiberglass material down, and then filling those voids. That would probably only take a quarter of a yard to fill those voids because they're only 2 inches thick. So that would be pretty easy. But, you know, so just some hands on to help lay the fabric, fasten it down, fasten the grating down, because you don't want that moving either. So they have fasteners that can go right down into those telephone grids below it. And then there'll be the more labor intense one would be the culvert. But personally, I think we can, Bob's an optimist, but I think we can get both of those things done in a day. But
Yeah.
because the laying the fabric down, putting the grid down, that's as fast as it sounds. So, the culvert, there may be some moderate rocks, so we got to get the rocks out of there, and you don't want to put those big rocks in afterwards. So my approach to that would be to sort of build a little stone structure on either end of the culvert with a little bit of the culvert exposed on either side of the roadway there, the old road. And then with maybe some of the smaller rubble you get out and pea stone to fill the void around the plastic culvert that gets put in.
Are you thinking both of these projects done for cross date? The
Yes,
end of- Okay, the end of June. All right.
Bob's thinking about doing them the same day.
Ah. Okay.
Do we have a tentative day when we'd be doing this?
Not yet, because I haven't heard back from Tim.
Mhm.
And then two, I don't have the material on hand.
Yeah.
The culvert is trivial. We can get that from Graves. and other places like that. So the culvert's not an issue and the Fieldstone's not an issue, but that plastic grating, that needs to come from Bedford.
Yeah.
And so I am getting shipping cost quotes from him. I would like to go down and see all their different products. So I'm trying to arrange it so I meet with Ted Lindsay when I go down and see the different products that they've got. And it would be a good contact to have, because I can see this type of a thing being extremely valuable product for any kind of crossing situation.
Mhm.
I mean, the strength, life characteristics of these products is amazing. So,
There's light at the end of my tunnel at this point, so I should be able to join a workday anytime mid-June.
that sounds
Wow.
great.
I'm going to be out of town the 24th through the 29th.
You always pull that one, Rick.
Well, I anticipate we'll have the grading in probably less than 10 days, because we've already got our order in to pick this up. So we're gonna, once we get the date that the material is ready at this Quaker Mill in Lebanon, then I'll schedule a pickup time with Bedford.
Okay.
All right,
Hey,
good stuff. All the way around.
So, old business. I presume that there wasn't any kind of a arrangement made with the Concom?
Oh,
Regarding a
yeah.
potential site visit to,
No, I missed that meeting. I had a family situation come up, which I think I sent around. And so it was a last minute thing that happened, just about coincidental with that Concom meeting. But I am on the docket, so I'll present to the document that we're going to present that we want covered at that meeting, as well as what we're going to do up at the foundation site, et cetera, with Concom at that next meeting. So, but that meeting was not till after town meeting. So they have one very shortly after town meeting that I am now on the docket for.
What about Geordie Lane? Is that just,
That's what he's talking about.
oh,
That's what I'm presenting at that. I'm bringing.
okay, all right.
Yep.
I wasn't listening.
Yep. All right. All right. David, it was great to have you here. David is, I put it in the note that I sent around. David is very interested. I don't know, you're going to get really busy, David. Can you hear? Yeah, I just saw your mic go off. You're already on, the Ag Commission. So
Right.
you're already one committee, and he's very interested in joining the Open Space Committee.
Aha,
And I did just double check. That's easy for you to say. Double check. We do have one open vacancy at the moment, and it's highly likely that at the end of June, there will be a second opening for,
there better be.
Yeah.
so.
are we thinking Tim?
Yeah, we just coincidentally, Bob, we were out handing out literature and about Fieldstone Farm, trying to get folks to come on June 1st. And we stopped by, I can't remember his last name, the new folks from Connecticut up on Mount Jeff Road there, before you get to Joe Cataldo's place on the left. And when we were talking to him, he brought up the subject of, because when I talked to him, God, months ago, he thought he might be interested in joining the committee as well. So
he's a forester, is that right?
he is, yeah, he's a forester. He's retired. He was pretty high up in Connecticut's, whatever their DCR was, from what he told me before. And I told him that we had a current vacancy, and then we would be having another one later this year. I think June is.
Yeah, I looked at that. It expires at the end of June. All right. All that's good stuff. And so, David, if you want to pursue becoming a member of this committee, I can follow up with you relative to the logistics relative to filling out an application, and then it needs to go to the select board. And then after that, the select board approves it, and then you're on the committee.
Okay, great. Sounds
Can you,
good.
can you sling a shovel?
All right.
Okay.
Any other old or other business or new business?
What?
Next meeting.
Oh, it's, I'm tired today.
Hey, here's a thought, because my track record isn't very good. Can we switch this to the first Wednesday, last Wednesday of the month instead of the last Tuesday? Because if I miss that end of the week prior to
Yeah,
that,
that's tough because, yeah.
Ah,
that would make it so I can contact them on Monday and still get this thing scheduled and not keep, because I probably reschedule it not 100% of the time, but probably about 99. How about switching it to the last Wednesday of the month? Anybody?
That works for
That-
us.
That would be the 30th.
Yeah,
All right. How about we schedule it for that would be the 30th of June.
That's good because I wouldn't be here on the 29th anyway.
are you back on
There you go.
the?
I'm back.
All right. Let's do that. Sounds great.
Okay, guys.
Very good meeting, folks. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I second it.